Most of the time, wars are fought with tanks. However, in biking clubs, things are a bit different. Biker gangs face off against their enemies on roaring motorcycles. Being one of the most notorious biker clubs that are on the hit list of several law enforcement agencies, the Hells Angels Club has made its fair share of nemesis. Brace yourself as we unveil the 10 most dangerous enemies of the Hells Angels. Number 1. The Outlaws. The Outlaws Motorcycle Club was founded in McCook, Illinois in 1935, making it one of the oldest outlaw motorcycle clubs in existence. The club began as a social and recreational association for motorbike enthusiasts. However, with time, it grew into a more infamous and criminal organization. The Outlaws spread their influence throughout the United States and, later, abroad, forming chapters in numerous nations. The Outlaws Motorcycle Club emerged as a fierce competitor to the Hells Angels in the 1960s. The Outlaws, founded in 1935 and located in Chicago, immediately became recognized for their aggressive behavior and engagement in illegal operations, such as narcotics trafficking and extortion, posing a considerable threat to the Hells Angels. As the two clubs competed for control of the lucrative Midwest narcotics trade, their animosity grew more intense. In 1984, they got into one of their most infamous fights at a motorcycle event in Michigan. Tensions were high because the Hells Angels had set up camp next to the Outlaws. A gang of armed Outlaws members surprised the Hells Angels in the early morning hours. Several motorcyclists lost their lives in the ensuing conflict, and many more were hurt as well. In 1994, when a group of outlaws attacked the Indiana Hells Angels clubhouse, sparking a bloody shootout, the violence worsened even more. Several bikers lost their lives in the altercation. This incident was the beginning of a long-standing feud between the two gangs that continues to this day. In 2018 in Illinois, the two rival biker gangs, the Hells Angels and the Outlaws, engaged in a massive brawl. The confrontation erupted in a burst of fury, with an estimated 50 to 75 bikers locked in a vicious struggle for dominance. Fists flew, boots stomped, and chaos reigned. It was a battle fueled by deep-seated animosity, a bitter rivalry that had been brewing for years. As a result, 4 individuals were apprehended. Out of the 4 arrested men, 3 faced charges that carry significant weight. Amidst the chaos, a police officer sustained minor injuries but was quickly treated and released from a local hospital. This conflict took a heavy toll and left a lasting impression on the neighborhood. An ongoing cycle of revenge, violent battles, and territorial disputes characterizes the struggle between the Outlaws and the Hells Angels. The battle for dominance and control over the motorcycle club scene between the two clubs is still raging. Number 2. Bandidos. The Bandidos Motorcycle Club, often known as the Bandito Nation, is a worldwide outlaw motorcycle club. The Bandidos Motorcycle Club, founded in 1966 in San Leon, Texas, is reported to have between 2,000 and 2,500 active members and 303 chapters in 22 countries, making it the second largest motorcycle gang in the world. The club was started by motorcycle enthusiasts led by Donald Eugene Chambers, with the goal of building a brotherhood of riders. Chambers' military experience in the Vietnam War inspired the club's name, Bandidos. Initially, the Bandidos concentrated on long-distance rides and companionship. However, like the other rival gangs, the club grew into a problematic criminal organization over time. The Bandidos, who were notorious for their illicit activity and aggressive dispositions, rapidly established themselves as a strong motorcycle gang. Their conflicts with rival gangs, notably the Hells Angels, rose to fame in the motorcycle world. Control of the narcotics trade in Texas and other southern states is the front line in this conflict. The rivalry between these two clubs, however, really reached its peak in the 1990s. It all started with a power battle among the Bandidos, which resulted in a club split. A handful of disgruntled members decided to start their own faction, the Bandidos Nomads, after feeling marginalized in the club's decision-making procedures. Sensing an opening, the Hells Angels tried to exploit the Bandidos' divide and began recruiting nomads. This resulted in a series of violent clashes between the two groups, the most famous of which occurred in 1996 at a petrol station in Denmark. The savage brawl took the lives of several people and injured many more, heightening tensions between the Hells Angels and the Bandidos. The fight between these two opposing clubs, however, was far from over. A full-fledged conflict broke out between them in 2006, this time in Australia. The fight was sparked when a group of Bandidos members showed up uninvited at a Hells Angels clubhouse in Sydney. The resulting brawl left numerous Hells Angels members battered and stabbed. In retribution, the Hells Angels carried out a series of attacks against Bandidos clubhouses around Australia. Hells Angels members used a vehicle bomb to demolish a Bandidos clubhouse in Adelaide in one bold move. The fight lasted months as each side tried to gain an advantage. Despite arrests and crackdowns on both groups, the Hells Angels and Bandidos feud continues to this day. Their continuous rivalry exemplifies the tremendous anger and resolve that exist within the biker gang subculture. The fight between these two strong and vicious motorcycle organizations continues to make headlines. Number 3. Mongols. The Mongols Motorcycle Club, which has its headquarters in California, has increased its influence countrywide, with chapters in 14 states and 11 countries. The Mongols have become a strong force in the motorcycle world, with an estimated 2,000 full-patched members. The organization was started in the late 1960s in California by a group of Latino motorcyclists looking to develop their own identity and brotherhood. The Mongols expanded significantly in both size and strength over the decades. They formed chapters throughout the United States, Canada, Mexico, and Europe. However, they gained reputations through illegal acts such as narcotics trafficking and racketeering. With a startling occurrence in 2002, the animosity between the Mongols and the Hells Angels began to heat up. A number of Mongols members showed up uninvited to a Hells Angels poker tournament in Laughlin, Nevada, igniting a violent battle. The battle ended in injuries and the death of a Hells Angels member, sparking a years-long feud between the two gangs. The Hells Angels began a series of retaliatory strikes against the Mongols in reaction to the attack. Hells Angels members assaulted a group of Mongols in a Nevada casino parking lot, inflicting severe injuries on many Mongol members with baseball bats and tire irons. However, the Mongols refused to back down and swiftly retaliated. In 2008, a group of heavily armed Mongol members stormed a Hells Angels clubhouse in Santa Cruz, California. A bloody fight started, leaving several individuals injured and claiming the life of a Hells Angels member. The two clubs' feud reached a climax in 2008 when the FBI launched a large-scale operation against the Mongols. More than 60 Mongols members, including numerous high-ranking leaders, were arrested, dealing a significant blow to the club's power and influence within the outlaw biker world. The FBI operation had a severe impact on the Mongol Motorcycle Club. It not only weakened its organizational structure, but also diminished its popularity. While the rivalry between the Mongols and the Hells Angels continues, the Mongols have faced extremely significant setbacks and have ever since struggled to regain their former strength. The conflict between these two iconic biker clubs serves as a testament to the intensity and volatility that can arise within the outlaw motorcycle subculture. Number 4. Vagos. The Vagos Motorcycle Club was founded in 1965 in San Bernardino, California, and is a notorious biker club that rose to fame and power thanks to the distinctive green attire of its members and the insignia featuring Loki, the Norse god of mischief, riding a motorcycle. It is said that a member from the Beardo chapter, a slang for San Bernardino, created this unique patch featuring Loki while he was in prison. Vago means vagabond or wanderer in Spanish. Their denim jackets sport their top rockers with their club name integrated into the middle patch. It was formed as a small group, but due to its popularity, the Vagos expanded their operations to different parts of the world. It is reported to have approximately 4,000 members spread across 200 chapters in the United States. However, their reputation extends beyond the boundaries of just a traditional motorcycle club, as they, too, have been associated with criminal activities such as narcotics trafficking and extortion. The conflict between the Hells Angels and the Vagos started in the 1990s, when the Vagos established a chapter in California, reportedly encroaching on the Hells Angels territory. This territorial dispute led to a series of violent clashes between the two gangs, with both groups blaming the other for igniting the violence. One of the most famous incidents that amplified this feud happened in 2002 in Nevada. It was known as the Laughlin River Run riot. The event turned chaotic immediately when a group of Hells Angels members attacked a group of Vagos members. The brawl went out onto the streets, resulting in numerous injuries. This clash was just one among many violent clashes that occurred between the two rival clubs. Another major incident in the ongoing conflict between the Hells Angels and the Vagos took place in 2011. Jeffrey Pettigrew, a member of the Hells Angels motorcycle club, passed away after being shot at a Nevada casino. The shooting was reportedly carried out by a Vagos member and marked a grave escalation in the clash between the two gangs. The rivalry between the Hells Angels and the Vagos represents intense competition and territorial fights. Both sides have engaged in acts of violence and retaliation, repeating the cycle of hostility and bloodshed. While law enforcement agencies have intensified their efforts to curb the activities of these clubs, the conflict between the Hells Angels and the Vagos is still very active. The greed for power, territory, and criminal enterprises is the main reason for the ongoing struggle for dominance, leaving behind a trail of violence and tragedy in its wake. Number 5. Pagans Motorcycle Club. The Pagans Motorcycle Club, established in 1957 in Maryland, is one of the most famous motorcycle clubs in the United States. With chapters spread across the East Coast, the Pagans are known for their criminal activities and extreme rivalry with other biker clubs, notably the Hells Angels. The Pagans Motorcycle Club was formed by Lou Dobkins, a former Marine who wanted to create a brotherhood of like-minded people with a passion for motorcycles. The club quickly grew in size, influence, and power, founding new chapters in states such as Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and Delaware. Their unique patch, featuring a pagan character wielding an axe, became a sign of their identity. The Pagans Motorcycle Club has established a strong reputation, with its members often showing loyalty and a willingness to engage in illegal and deadly activities. The Pagans have a long-standing conflict with the Hells Angels, one of the oldest and most prominent motorcycle clubs. The roots of this feud can be traced back to the 1970s, when the Pagans expanded their territory along the East Coast, entering the traditional Hells Angels territory. The conflict between the Pagans and the Hells Angels reached its peak in the 1980s and 1990s, when deadly clashes between the two clubs became frequent. These crimes often involved weapons and resulted in injuries and fatalities. Both clubs accused each other of starting the fight and encroaching on each other's territories. This further fueled the animosity between them. One of the most prevalent incidents occurred in 2002 in Plainview, New York. Members of the pagan community attacked a gathering of Hells Angels members, leading to a violent fight that left several individuals injured. This event further ignited tensions and paved the way for the bitter and endless feud between the two clubs. Law enforcement agencies closely monitored the activities of both the Pagans and the Hells Angels, due to their involvement in various criminal activities including narcotics trafficking, extortion, and organized crime. The ongoing clash between these clubs has been a challenge for law enforcement to stop, as it often results in public disturbances, violence, and loss of life. Despite many attempts to mediate the conflict, the rivalry between the Pagans and the Hells Angels continues. Both clubs remain committed to maintaining their territories, and some even call for expansion. The club's rivalry with the Hells Angels shows the dark and dangerous side of the outlaw motorcycle culture, where territorial disputes and a thirst for power can end up having devastating consequences. Number 6. Rock Machine. The Rock Machine has a presence in Canada, with 21 chapters spanning 7 provinces. It also has a notable presence in other parts of the world, including 9 chapters in the United States, 11 chapters in Australia, and additional chapters in 24 countries globally. Founded in 1986 by Salvatore Cazzetta and his brother Giovanni Cazzetta, the Rock Machine engaged in fierce competition with the Hells Angels to control the street-level drug trade in Quebec. The Rock Machine quickly gained recognition by challenging the Hells Angels' power in Quebec. They swiftly became involved in the drug trade, particularly in Quebec, where they established their position as essential players in the narcotics trafficking trade. The constant struggle for power and control over the lucrative narcotics trade in Quebec became the reason for the war between these two motorcycle clubs. The clash between the Rock Machine and the Hells Angels commenced in the early 1990s. One of the most famous clashes occurred in 1994 at Sherbrooke Airport. As the Rock Machine members landed, they met a group of Hells Angels who were waiting to fire indiscriminately at them. The result was shocking, with 5 Rock Machine members losing their lives and many others getting injured. The airport was transformed into a scene just like a war zone. The violence continued to escalate as both sides started to bomb and do drive-by shootings. Unfortunately, innocent people found themselves caught in the crossfire, highlighting the devastating impact of the conflict. In one particular incident, a young boy playing nearby lost his life due to an explosion. The Quebec Biker War was one of the bloodiest biker conflicts in Canadian history. During the Quebec Biker War, the Rock Machine formed alliances with several other organizations to confront the Hells Angels. Lasting from 1994 to 2002, the war took 160 lives and caused more than 300 injuries. Additionally, over 100 individuals associated with the Rock Machine were imprisoned as a result of the conflict. The war between the Rock Machine and the Hells Angels revealed the dark side of the biker world, with its brutal territorial disputes and ruthless pursuit of power. The Quebec Biker War left an impact on both the criminal underworld and society as a whole, highlighting the grave consequences of territorial disputes and criminal activities within biker gangs. Number 7. United Tribunes. The United Tribunes is a biker gang that has gained attention for its clashes with the notorious Hells Angels. The group was founded in 2004 by Almir Boki Kulam, a Bosnian Civil War refugee, and has since established local chapters throughout Germany. The United Tribunes, resembling rockers in their appearance and operating style, tensions between the United Tribunes and the Hells Angels escalated in the city of Leipzig, located on the edge of East Germany and close to the Czech border. In the summer of 2016, the United Tribunes organized a public gathering in Leipzig, which served as both a signal of their territorial claim and an internal strengthening of their bonds. The city officially recognized the event as a funeral march for Vasil A., a member of the United Tribunes who had been shot by a Hells Angels member. However, the confrontation between the two groups turned violent. The incident unfolded with the Hells Angels, led by Marcus M., an influential figure in East Germany, facing off against the young and fearless United Tribunes, led by Soiren O. The entire thing was caught on video. The United Tribunes launched a determined attack on the Hells Angels, and in response, one of the Hells Angels drew his gun and began shooting. Vasil A., a member of the United Tribunes, was gravely injured and later succumbed to his injuries in the hospital. This tragic event marked a significant escalation in the conflict between the United Tribunes and the Hells Angels. The United Tribunes refused to back down in the face of this loss and made a martyr out of their fallen comrade. The group demonstrated their resilience and sent a strong message to their opponents that they would not be intimidated. The clash between these two rival groups highlights the reach of gang conflicts. The Hells Angels, having established their dominance in the biker gang culture outside of America, see the presence and activities of the United Tribunes as a direct challenge to their authority. The emergence of new biker gangs like the United Tribunes challenges the established hierarchy within the biker underworld. These groups recruit members who are willing to demonstrate unwavering loyalty. In 2022, the German government banned the United States. 1,500 officers in 9 federal states searched 108 objects and confiscated money, weapons, and valuables. This indeed had a significant impact on the United Tribune, but there are reports that the organization continues to work behind dark curtains. Number 8. Satudara. Satudara MC is an outlaw motorcycle club that operates globally and is established in the town of Moordrecht, Netherlands in 1990. The club has made headlines due to its involvement in various crimes. Within the Netherlands, Satudara MC has a strong presence, with 44 chapters spread across the country. Additionally, the club has expanded its reach to 22 other countries, establishing a presence in many different parts of the world. This global expansion has paved the way for Satudara MC to extend its influence and activities beyond its home base. The clash between these two motorcycle clubs stems from territorial disputes and competition for control over criminal enterprises. As both groups seek to expand their influence and protect their interests, these clashes often result in violent confrontations, including armed conflicts and street fights. According to Spiegel News, Satudara had ties to the Bandidos Motorcycle Club, which was at odds with the Hells Angels, and hence the two organizations shared an enemy. Hand grenades, large-scale melees, and even gunfire were frequent features of territorial battles between Satudara and Hells Angels. Even some of the German club members carried submachine weapons and Kalashnikovs. In the Netherlands in 2015, a well-known confrontation between Satudara and the Hells Angels took place. Members of the two motorbike clubs in the city of Eindhoven got into a heated argument, which created a chaotic and dangerous scenario. Hells Angels members entered a cafe that Satudara and Bandidos members were known to frequent almost regularly, which led to the commencement of the altercation between the club members. It is believed that tensions had been kindling between the two clubs before this incident. As the Hells Angels entered the cafe, a physical brawl broke out between the members of both clubs, quickly escalating into a large-scale fight. Witnesses reported that the scene turned chaotic within seconds, with punches, kicks, and objects thrown in every direction. The brawl spilt onto the streets, causing panic and disruption in the surrounding area and among bystanders. The police were called to the scene. Due to the large number of people and the power of the brawl, numerous police units were called in as reinforcements. The situation remained very tense as the authorities kept trying to separate the two groups and bring the situation under control. It took a significant effort from the police to disperse the fighting groups. The Danish government has banned Hells Angels and is seriously working to crack down on the Satudara Motorcycle Club. Number 9. Cosa Nostra. One of the most influential organizations in the world is the Cosa Nostra, also known as the Sicilian Mafia. Cosa Nostra is an organization with violent roots that started in Sicily, Italy. Although it primarily engages in organized crime operations, including narcotics trafficking, extortion, and illegal gambling, it also has disputes with other gangs of criminals. The Cosa Nostra and the Hells Angels are at war for a variety of reasons, including territorial disputes, rivalry for dominance of the black market, and power and influence issues. Both organizations engage in comparable criminal worlds, such as illegal substance trafficking and organized crime operations, which can lead to conflicts of interest and rivalry. In the early 2000s, one famous incident of their conflict took place in Montreal, Canada. The Quebec Biker War, a bloody biker conflict, was taking place at the time in Montreal. Numerous motorcycle gangs, including the Hells Angels and regional gangs like Cosa Nostra, participated in this conflict. A lot of destructive explosions took place in Quebec as a result of the struggle for hold of the lucrative narcotics trade. The Hells Angels and Cosa Nostra found themselves on opposing sides during this conflict. While the Hells Angels were aligned with other local biker gangs, Cosa Nostra formed alliances with rival gangs to challenge the Hells Angels' power. The clashes between Cosa Nostra and the Hells Angels were not limited to Canada. Both groups have established their presence in other parts of the world, leading to tensions and conflicts that have also arisen in those places. These conflicts often revolve around control of narcotics markets and disputes over territories these groups hold. The fight between Cosa Nostra and the Hells Angels shows the high stakes involved in organized crime and the lengths criminal organizations are willing to go to protect their interests. Law enforcement agencies have dedicated all their workforce and resources to combating both Cosa Nostra and the Hells Angels, knowing the threat they pose to public safety and society as a whole. These organizations have intricate structures, codes of silence, and deep-rooted networks, making it very difficult for authorities to crack down on them completely. Number 10. Law enforcement agencies. The law enforcement agencies are among the Hells Angels' most deadly foes, not because of their strength, but rather because their frequent attacks on their strongholds have the potential to significantly weaken them and provide the other rival gangs with an opening. The Hells Angels and law enforcement clashed during the infamous biker wars in California in the 1960s and 1970s. Violent altercations broke out between the Hells Angels and other motorcycle gangs at this time, including the Outlaws and the Mongols. In their efforts to stop the violence from getting worse and safeguard the public, law enforcement organizations frequently found themselves in the middle of these clashes. In response to the Hells Angels' unlawful conduct and altercations with other clubs, law enforcement agencies initiated investigations and crackdowns on the organization. These typically involved close surveillance, clandestine activities, and invasions and raids of Hells Angels clubhouses. These encounters typically led to arrests, confiscation of illegal substances and firearms, and the interruption of criminal activities. In order to put an end to the Hells Angels in California, the Federal Bureau of Investigation carried out a significant operation known as Operation Black Biscuit in 2002. In this operation, a number of coordinated raids on Hells Angels clubhouses led to numerous arrests and the destruction of various narcotics trafficking networks connected to the group. Outside of the United States, law enforcement and the Hells Angels have occasionally fought. Similar conflicts have occurred in places like Canada, Australia, and Europe. There, law enforcement authorities intervened to put an end to the club's criminal behavior and maintain public order. It is crucial to note that the Hells Angels have fought regularly in court with law enforcement bodies to protect their identity and club culture. To refute accusations, challenge search warrants, and protect the rights of its members, they have assembled a team of top-notch defense attorneys and used legal tactics. A never-ending game of cat and mouse has developed between the Hells Angels and the police, with each side constantly modifying and responding to the other's tactics. The Hells Angels continue to exist and oppose state authority, even as law enforcement organizations try to break up criminal organizations and prosecute members.